So now we're going to head over to the new session, relatively new. We've done it twice now in prior summits. We sort of nickname it sponsor speed dating, or 15-minute one-on-ones with sponsorship decision makers. I'm just going to grill them and ask them how to get sponsored. Why do they sponsor? What do they look for? For anybody on the call that's interested in learning more about these brands or how to get sponsored by them, hopefully these sessions will help us do so. So George, let's pull up Scott Lukaitis from Engine Ice. Scott, are you there? There he is. Scott, how are you, man? Here's an
Good evening.
industry veteran. This guy has more experience than I do. He's seen a lot of sponsorships over the years.
I have, and honestly, the power sports side way more than automotive, but it's exciting to look at how similar the two sports really are.
Yes.
And to someone else's, to Kelsey's point just a minute ago, your social media is your resume, and that speaks a lot of volume to making sure you're doing the right thing out there for everyone to see, because we look on someone's posts, and if it's kind of questionable, we may not look at them as a potential partner. So yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, not only is it a digital resume, it's a forever evergreen perpetual digital resume.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
25 years, people will still be looking at that resume. So
God willing, right?
Is permanent. Just remember that.
Yeah,
well, let's get into Engine Ice. Let's go straight into the heart of it. We have a lot of drivers on the call that are interested in getting sponsored by whatever brand that suits them and that is a good fit for them. If Engine Ice is a good fit for one of these drivers, how can they approach you? What do you look for? Why do you sponsor? Let's just go over it real quick. Let's touch on everything.
So as I mentioned, Engine Ice, well, my background is definitely way more power sports than automotive, and the same thing for Engine Ice. Engine Ice is a company that's been around for a little over 20 years in the power sports side, and we're just now starting to break into automotive. So for us, we're looking at partners that can then help expand our reach into dealerships, into repair shops, into performance automotive, and then the big summits and turn 14s and those kind of things. So we're looking for partners that help build that groundswell of drivers and customers asking for our product, so that the big companies have to take us on.
So you're looking to get into new markets.
I'm sorry?
It's essentially that same concept of, if you want to enter a new market, but nobody knows you in that market, stand alongside professionals in that market who are already well known, because then the fans, the locals, they'll accept you in. Stand alongside proven people and proven brands, proven athletes, and it gives you legitimacy and credibility. So you're looking to enter new markets.
Yeah, and to the point that everyone's an influencer, right? So if you're a local racetrack guy, you're the micro influencer in your neighborhood. You're probably the car guy in your family. You're probably the car guy in your block, and you're the one that people go to asking for advice. So, even though you don't have millions and millions of followers, you're influencing a core group of people that are buyers, and that's the company or the type of drivers and the type of people we want to work with.
Everyone is an influencer. I totally agree with that. Sometimes just our best friends, people we know, people who we look up to, we'll follow their lead when it comes to buying parts or anything that's endemic, at least. So what do you look for when you're selecting a team or a property or a driver to sponsor? What specifically do they have, other than, let's say, they can make introductions to you and they can bring you into a new market? Let's say they can do that, but now you have 15 good people to choose from. How do you pick the driver or drivers to sponsor?
That's really hard. Usually for us, it's come from people telling us that, oh, this is a good guy to work with, or this is a relationship from another relationship. The good things happen to good people, right? So if you're a good driver and you're a good person and you're promoting the right positivity, you're going to pass it along to other people. And several of our drivers right now, they come from just a relationship we've had with somebody else. Our NASCAR driver, our Xfinity drivers are both relationships that we've had previously from a partner of theirs or a friend of theirs say, hey, you should work with this person.
Excellent. And I agree with that. I think personal referrals by far are probably the number one way. Let's say somebody doesn't know anybody who knows you. Are you still looking at decks? Or would you accept a proposal? Would you accept a solicitation?
I do.
Or a cold call?
I still do look at those, because you never know. To be honest with you, most of our relationships have come out of even just going to PRI and talking to someone at a show. And truthfully, I've had a couple of drivers in the drift category come up to me at PRI last year and the year before, and we've talked, and they've come back to say hello. And, we've shared, hey, thanks for sending me a couple of cases of that product. It works really good. I've been telling friends. I think, honestly, my relationship or my introduction to you for this opportunity came from a driver we met at PRI. Mm-hmm. So it's just all about sharing that networking. And then how does that lead into more opportunities?
So then let's get in detail. What does a sponsorship from Engine Ice look like? Is it cash, product, marketing, combination of the above? Does it vary per team, per driver, per series?
Right now it's really just product. You got to sell a lot of coolant to make a cash deal worthwhile to us on the return on investment, especially for a brand new product. Now, it's to the point just a little bit ago about having content out there, about having images, about having a great social media. It's about being easy to work with. So some of those drivers, if they're very easy to work with, our social media team finds it much easier to work with them. We do giveaways, so we'll share, we'll send out a couple of cases of product to your users or your fans or likes. So we collaborate on stuff like that. But from our perspective, it's really just getting product into the hands of the right people. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. That doesn't mean that down the road, the budget doesn't increase, and it probably will if this automotive thing takes off like it should. But it's all stepping stones, right? So initially it's groundswell, grassroots. Here's some product, try it, tell people. We know when, a certain area or certain drivers are doing well at promoting it, we hear from people. So as those things get better, then we start to look at financial contributions as well.
So am I hearing you correctly? And am I reading between the lines when you're saying, we'll see how this automotive thing goes, we're looking at the automotive market, that you actually might be in the market for some drifters to sponsor because you are looking at this space as a potential marketing avenue?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I welcome anyone that's on this call to reach out to me. Grant, I'd love to give you some product to try. That's kind of where we're at. We're a new brand into automotive. So we don't have the reputation like we do in power sports. So I want people to try it. I want people to tell me this stuff works, and that's means a lot to us. So when you're telling me that it works and you're telling your friend it works and your friends are telling your friends it works, then we start to see how it expands.
How can somebody get a hold of you, or what's the best way to approach someone at Engine Ice in order to start that relationship?
Honestly, just send me an email. It's scott@engineice.com. Super easy.
Everybody's writing that down right now.
Yeah, super easy. I'm gonna get. I'm watching my inbox piling. But yeah,
so like I said, you're a brave marketing director.
We're not ready.
By the way, is the director of marketing and sales for Engine Ice. So you're very brave by doing that. You realize you're going to be inundated now.
It is what it is, right?
It is.
We're not at the point of looking at financial support, but obviously product support is something we're absolutely doing right now. And like I said, as it gets more popular and more distribution is taken on with it, then we expand on that further. So like I said, we're very early in the stages on automotive, but it's got to start someplace, right? And this is where it starts with the grassroots drivers in not only drift, but all forms of motorsports.
So you were saying what really has value is to help you sell more product. Are you selling through retailers and distributors, or do you sell direct? And if a team has a relationship with a retailer or a distributor, is that going to put them on top of the list?
That's going to certainly help. It's not a direct correlation. I mean, I'm not going to say that 10% of whatever you sell, like we don't do that yet, but yeah, we sell direct. I'll the caveat is in motorsports we sell direct. Power sports we sell through distributors and dealers and stuff like that. So, but in motorsports, automotive, it's consumer direct, and then we're trying to work with some of the smaller auto racing distributors and trying to get that all expanded a little bit more.
So if it's consumer direct in the auto space, do you have an affiliate program then, or how does that work? Can you measure results and track success?
Not yet. Hoping to. Like that's the goal of it. I mean, as of right now, our automotive entry is very, very early in the life cycle. um, getting product to the market, getting product in people's hands, stuff like that. So it's very early. We will at some point be able to do some sort of, hey, here's, discount codes, and now I know how many you're selling for me. We haven't gotten there yet, but I mean, this is a very genuine conversation. This is a chance for everyone to be in kind of grassroots with us and see where it goes.
Yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. We're
Yeah.
literally trying to help grassroots drifters as well as young brands and any brand getting into the drift space and create those relationships. These summits are all about networking. Last time you and I talked, Scott, you were talking about your story. You want drivers to help tell you your story. What is the story of Engine Ice that a driver can say and explain and become part of that story and therefore part of your team?
Well, we want them to tell their story and how our product helped make their story better, right? So we want our product keeping your vehicle cooler longer, allowing you to succeed more in your your drifting in your drifting career, and how maybe our social media introduces you to the right people. Maybe there's some collaborative efforts between some of our automotive drivers and some of our power sports guys. Maybe there's just this kind of synergy between everybody. But what we're talking mostly about is telling, and I think they had said this before, about telling your story as a driver and not just being, a sticker on a fender, not just being, like they said, the same GoPro video. It's everyone's got something different to talk about. I mean, there's hundreds of drift drivers, right? So what separates you from somebody else? What is your story? You came from a different background. Did you come from, like, how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else?
Right. So I realizing that you come from the power sports space. What's an example of a really good power sports sponsorship that maybe a drifter can emulate and copy?
Gosh, that's a strange question. Right now, some of the stuff we're doing with Jared Meese in American Flat Track is really effective. Some of the collaborative efforts we've done with a couple of smaller supercross teams, where we're doing giveaways with them, and their riders are kind of younger, getting started, and just kind of making the break into the professional ranks. We've got a power sports racer that's a privateer racer that's living out of his van, traveling around the circuit, and he's doing a weekly vlog, which is kind of interesting because he's telling the real story. And I was talking to his dad over the weekend because his first couple of vlogs were a little bit too raw. Maybe there's a little bit too much swearing. And I said, listen, it's like, that's fine to show emotion when you made the main event for the first time in your career, stuff like that, but not when you're playing Top Golf on Wednesday night. So when you're making these videos or you're telling these stories on social media, you need to tell them with authenticity, but at the same point, the same thing that you would tell your grandma on Easter dinner, right? Like, you don't want to have anything out there that you're embarrassed to tell your family about, right? So do the right thing, show your emotion, show your, who you are authentically, but don't overdo it, right? Don't go to that the music that you're playing in the backgrounds and stuff. Let's make it a little bit more PC because, I may be okay with it, but our corporate leaders might not be okay with it. And I don't want to have that conversation on a Monday morning with the CFO or CMO at our company saying, hey, Scott, this is what your driver did over the weekend. I don't ever want to have that conversation. So don't make us have that conversation.
That's a really valid point. And in fact, that's a great segue to any final words of advice. I appreciate everything that you've already explained here, and these sessions go really fast. That's why we call it speed dating.
Sure.
But with a minute left to go, what words of advice do you have for drifters on the call? Just sponsorships in general. It doesn't have to necessarily be Engine Ice, but it can. It could be just, what do they need to know?
Yeah. So my big thing is I believe in what I call the power of one, right? It takes one opportunity or one conversation or one anything that can change your life forever. And I look at, websites like, so drivers need to treat their driving or their racing as a business, have a marketing plan, have a business plan. Don't kind of swing from the hip on it. And I'm a big believer in what LinkedIn can actually do to help get more sponsorships and different sponsorships. I think I said to you when we had our quick conversation, everybody keeps going back to the same well, right? there's only so much money in endemic sponsorship, but there's a lot of money in other companies, in major, Fortune 500 companies. And if one of those companies has a couple extra $10,000 in a budget out of $1 million budget, and you're telling the story that they connect with, that means a lot to your business or to your drifting, right? So become active on LinkedIn, look at what's available, be a little bit different than you would be on TikTok or Facebook, be a little bit more professional on there, but tell your story, and you just never know when that one's going to come in.
Boy, and that is so true. That is so true. Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for the time
Thanks.
today.
Thanks for
and
having
thank
me.
you
I
for sharing
appreciate
all
it.
that insight. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great evening.